Hello everyone and welcome to our podcast. My name is Siti NAZRA and I work as a diplomat in the field of international relations and foreign affairs. Today I am joined by Dr. CLAREENA, an international relations lecturer, and ALYSSA is a political analyst. Our discussion today revolves around a thought-provoking question: can diplomacy be waived? Diplomacy has been considered one of the most important tools in international relations. However, in a world filled with conflicts, political tension, and competing national interests, many people question whether diplomacy is always effective. So, let us begin our discussion. To start our discussion, I would like to ask both of you, why is diplomacy important in international relations? Dr. CLAREENA, perhaps you can begin.
Okay, so first, let me explain what is diplomacy. Diplomacy is important because it allows countries to communicate and negotiate peacefully. Without diplomacy, disagreements between states could easily escalate into conflict or wars. Diplomacy also encourages cooperation in areas such as trade, security, and humanitarian assistance. It helps countries maintain relationships despite differences in political interests and ideology.
That is a very important point. As a diplomat, I believe diplomacy acts as a bridge between nations. Even when countries disagree, diplomacy ensures that communication remains open. ALYSSA, what are your thoughts?
I agree that diplomacy plays a crucial role. In today's interconnected world, no country can solve global challenges alone. Issues such as climate change, terrorism, and economic instability require cooperation among nations. Without diplomacy, achieving such cooperation would be extremely difficult.
That is true. Would it be fair to say that diplomacy promotes stability in the international system?
Absolutely. Diplomacy reduces misunderstandings and creates opportunities for peaceful solutions. It is often more effective and less costly than a military confrontation.
I agree. While diplomacy is not perfect, it remains one of the most effective tools for managing international relations peacefully.
From our discussion, it seems clear that diplomacy plays an essential role in maintaining peace and cooperation. However, does that mean diplomacy always successful?
That is an important question, Nazra. While diplomacy offers many benefits, it is not without limitations. ALYSSA, why do some people believe diplomacy sometimes fail?
One major reason is that diplomacy can be slow. Negotiation between countries may take years without reaching meaningful outcomes. In some cases, governments prioritize their own national interests rather than collective solutions. As a result, diplomatic efforts may not always achieve their intended goal.
That is an interesting perspective. Nazra, as a diplomat, how would you respond to the criticism that diplomacy often takes too long?
I understand those concerns. However, diplomacy is a long-term process that requires trust, patience, and compromise. Building strong international relationships cannot happen overnight. Although diplomacy may be slow, it often produces more sustainable outcomes compared to conflicts.
That is true. Diplomacy may not provide immediate result, but it keeps communication channel open and reduce the possibility of misunderstanding. ALYSSA, do you think diplomacy alone is enough to solve international conflicts?
Not always. There are situations where diplomacy alone may not be sufficient. Governments may need to combine diplomacy with other approaches, such as economic sanction or international pressure. However, this does not mean diplomacy should be abandoned entirely.
There is a balanced perspective. Hmm, Perhaps the issue is not whether diplomacy should be removed, but rather how it can be improved or supported.
I agree. Diplomacy remains relevant, but it must adapt to changing global challenges.
Exactly. The world is becoming increasingly complex and diplomacy must evolve to remain effective.
After discussing both the strength and limitation of diplomacy, let us return to the main question of today's podcast. Can diplomacy be waived? Nazra, what is your answer?
Personally, I would say no. Diplomacy should never be completely waived because communication remains essential in international relations. When countries stop communicating, tension increase and misunderstandings grow, and conflicts become more difficult to resolve.
Dr. Clarina, do you agree?
Yes, I do. Diplomacy may not always be successful, but it provides opportunities for peaceful negotiation and cooperation. Completely waiving diplomacy would remove one of the most important mechanisms for maintaining peace and stability.
I agree to some extent. However, I believe diplomacy should not be viewed as the only solution. There are situations where stronger measures may be necessary when diplomacy fails.
That is a fair agreement. Perhaps diplomacy is not perfect, but it remains a fundamental component of international relations.
Exactly. The success of diplomacy depends on the willingness of countries to cooperate and engage in meaningful dialogue. Without trust and cooperation, even the best diplomatic efforts may struggle to succeed.
Therefore, I would argue that diplomacy should not be completely waived. Instead, it should work alongside other international strategies.
I think that is a reasonable conclusion. Diplomacy may have limitations, but abandoning it entirely could create even greater instability.
Indeed, history has shown that dialogue often provides better long-term solutions than confrontation.
Ultimately, diplomacy remains relevant because peace and cooperation require communications.
To conclude, diplomacy continues to play a critical role in maintaining peace and communication among nations.
Although diplomacy has limitations and may not always produce immediate results, it remains essential for international cooperation.
Therefore, diplomacy should not be completely waived, but rather complemented with other strategy when necessary.
Thank you for listening to our podcast.
We hope this discussion has provided valuable insights into the role of diplomacy in international relations.
See you when I see you.
Thank you and goodbye.